You you have a kind of bifurcated or some kind of a vision that allows you to say, okay, I have to do this for X number of hours, but it doesn't have anything to do with what I really am or what I want to be or go or do or something. And don't let it hassle you too much.
But you want to integrate it. You want to,
hopefully.
well, God, hopefully.
You want to
that's your life.
get to the point where you're doing everything.
It's a danger. I know that. And I suppose I've been lucky because of books, but therefore, if you assume that, then you can no longer, you talk from a posture of assuming you've had good luck. Maybe I have. It's the only way I've ever, other than, I worked for a newspaper, and then I was a farm boy, and I was 2 years in the Army, and the only other thing I've ever dealt with to make a living, if in various kinds of contexts, is books. I suppose nothing's less real, therefore. That's the general consensus. I don't know. I find it kind of heavy when I have to unload the trucks, but I don't bother. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it's and there are days when if I hear one more goddamn title, I'd like to scream. Jesus.
You go to the little bookstore.
But
Also.
I don't.
These things
Don't.
Russell, for those of you who don't know, has built Center Corps bookstores for them from the very beginning, and actually built the shelves.
That's right.
In the store on South U, showed them how to do that and order. Knows more about contemporary material that's literally available than anyone I know. I think it's crazy to want to know any of that stuff. I don't think that you used to pursue everything, every new book.
It's like other people.
You were aware of.
Oh yeah, but it's like other people work crossword puzzles or something else. It's a species of recreation too that amuses me.
It's insane.
It is.
Well,
how many people do you know that know baseball averages? All right. How many people do you know that follow football like it was important?
Right.
Other people do and I've always put it at the level of it's like typewriting. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't have to dislike it. Is the point?
Really?
I don't have to like it, but I don't have to hate it.
Right.
And there seems to me there's a distinction there. It's probably true that I got 50 or 60,000 titles and authors roaming around in my head, but I'm not I don't consciously learn them. They just stick.
Right. And on good days you like it.
On good days I like it because I can show off. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
I can buy that.
It's partly true, sure. And I like also the simplicity that's involved in the business, believe it or not. There's a very real, it's a much simpler kind of business than lots of others. And then also, there are the kind of the funny kinds of rewards that come about because, people can find things that they've really been looking for a long time, and there they are, right on your shelves.
Right.
And, I have dealt with books almost entirely as a way of making a living. But after all, publishing is a sort of half-ass business. It's back in the 19th century. It's pretty funny. And they still sing. What?
Doesn't the Mafia own most of the big publishing companies these days?
No, the Mafia doesn't own the publishing companies, but it has a lot to do with the IDs, the big jobbers. Or if not the Mafia, it's a polite, it's a syndicated kind of. I don't know if it's precisely the Mafia, but there's a lot of terroristic influence, and there are kickbacks, and the mass marketing in particular, Bantam and all that. Oh, it's dreadful.
They have the paper pulp business.
Oh yeah, it's just dreadful. But there are still some really straight, family-owned, honorable.
Few people that make books that.
They really care about right. Dover could care less. There's 6 people just about in Dover Books at headquarters. Blanche and Haywood Cirker, and they'll do it when they get around to it. They haven't had a book on time in 2 years. They don't care. I mean, they're going on, they're doing their thing, doing good work. They're not getting rich, but they're making enough to keep a lot of things in print. They aren't like some of the other companies have people that run around with slide rules to decide whether or not books should stay in print or not. You know, ridiculous things like that. No, they never consult what's inside the book. I keep thinking, what's going to ever happen to God when he discovers he isn't the most popular author in the country and they start pulping the Bible? And in fact, Oxford pulped some Bibles this spring. No, they pulped them. They junked some, remaindered some. So, but you know, there are incidentally, insofar as publishing in the widest context of the word is concerned, there's never been so much in the United States per capita at any time as past as there has been the last few years. It's very if you've got anything to say at all, it's very difficult not finding a place that'll publish them.
Well, how do people buy them all, too?
Well, that's a big wonderment to me. But we're...
Is that like an alternative to television and that other stuff that they...
I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I think that after you've watched Johnny Carson long enough, you must get hungry for something, you know, a little more substantial. Movies are having quite a big day right now, but most people that are really into movies, and so far as their customers also, are deeply anxious usually to read a book because the movie as a process has a tendency toward evanescence. It doesn't, you can't stop it, you know, you're not the only one in the theater and so on. And it's hard in a way without going a lot of $2.50 admission tickets to really study, or to study deeply a film. So they even end up with books sooner. The movie nuts end up with books sooner or later. The drug nuts are. They're all out trying to raise Amanita. What's the magic mushroom one? Or people in Ann Arbor trying to raise magic mushrooms now. And I think that's fine. But I don't like to stock the ones as a consequence that don't have fairly accurate scientific descriptions and the Latin names and so on, because I got a vision of somebody ingesting the wrong substances and never coming back. And it's an awful way to lose a customer if you want to be bald about it. The difficulty is that, and I think there are probably more people involved in the American past in the artifact sense than at any time in history. This is above and beyond those who are doing it just because it's a good investment. And that's kind of an interesting change. I don't think it's just publicity out of the Bicentennial Committee, which seems notably moribund. That strikes me as being a healthy change. There's a town down in the Ozarks, I've forgotten the name of it, where they have an annual fiddling festival, a kind of folk festival. And last year was the first year that there were more strangers, more out-of-staters there than Missourians. I think people are, as it were, like William Rowan Thompson. It's a very interesting book called At the Edge of History, to which I commend you all. I think people are moving out towards certain kinds of edges. The thing is, many of them aren't staying. But that problem could be corrected if they didn't go with expectations in excess of what the experience can possibly yield anyway. You're just not likely to go to a country fiddling festival or an Indian reservation and have the Messiah strike you. Or at least it's better to go with a certain skepticism about it happening. We're great anticipators in this nation.
But you had a hell of an experience on that blackout thing.
Oh yeah, but you see, I didn't predicate my existence going out there on it.
No,
Yeah.
really.
But I guess you get patient to the degree that you don't expect too much.
There's diminishing returns in that too. I mean, if you don't expect anything, you'll get nothing. I mean, meaning that if you look for peace, you'll find peace. Whatever you look for, you'll find whatever you look for. I mean, I can see what you're saying too, but there's two sides to it too. There's a lot of people who don't expect anything and they don't get anything.
A lot of people go.
They must have an awful lot of boredom then.
Well, I think there must be a lot of boredom happening in the midst of all
Well,
the
you
stuff.
know that.
Yeah.
You should see, they opened the fishing season down here in this new dam. There's no fish in there. I haven't seen one fish come out of there. And all night long, fires are burning out there, and the guys sitting down there talking to each other, I guess.
That's it.
Right.
Right there.
That's it.
Really.
After all these machines, God knows how many machines we got. I don't own a television set, and I've got a radio, but it doesn't play very well. Only one station comes in every once in a while. That's kind of all right for the ball games, because you don't want to listen to them all the time anyway. And then other than that, all right, so there's almost a minimum of, but that's very inconsistent too, because my one great luxury and my favorite appliance of all time is my electric pencil sharpener, because it puts the most beautiful points on that 2 or 3 jars of pencil I got around the house. And really, beyond that,
Fits in like a tea, eh?
beyond that, I really don't. I don't get much cluttered up with that kind of. But there are too many machines. I think that's true.
You're selling everything or getting rid of everything.
I'm going to get rid of a lot of stuff. I have a bicycle, but I couldn't ride it today because I went to put air in the tire and blew the thing up. So you see, I'm really adept with that kind of machine. I haven't been the same since we got rid of the horses.
That's interesting about the thing of expecting things or not expecting. It's interesting about, you were talking about that everybody needed to have a stake in something, you know? I'm sure that's why bingo is like,
Oh, of
all
course.
those old people just have lost a chance.
That's right. It's a great therapy.
Blind
That was the
attention.
dirtiest thing that they ever did. Besides, it ruined whole dioceses. What do bishops do now? They don't have the bingo receipts to. That's one of the reasons. If they would open it right back up again, there'd be a hell of a lot fewer problems with the parochial school financing. And I adore going to bingo games. You know, I think that's just dandy. It's a wonderful 2-hour therapy, and away you go, and it's cheap and much better than a shrink anyway.
Shit, my dad won $500 and married my mom.
There you are.
We have a testimonial from real people.
I swear to God, like
I think it's a
I got
great.
the clipping at home.
One of the things I'm a little tired of is in Ann Arbor, for example, and their anxiety to get in touch with the animal world has really produced several interesting results in Ann Arbor. Last year they had to gas 1,700 dogs in May because people went away and abandoned them. And there is more dog shit per square inch in Ann Arbor than any other city of its size. But it's just hideous. Because ultimately, you know, they've had that trip, and the way they go in the summer, and 1,700 of them last May.
Where were they all at?
Humane Society, and they had 1,700 dogs this whole So you say, it's an interesting question, Michael. I don't know. One of the things that also poses a problem to me about Ann Arbor, particularly in the summer times, I'm more acutely aware of it than at other times, is that this goddamn city with 40,000 students, and most of them away, has got more places to park cars than it has to park your fanny. In other words, there are parking structures all over the place, and there just isn't any place to sit down.
And the ones that were are slowly being removed.
That's right. It's incredible the number of parking structures we've got. All the
One of the mechanical processes.
right. So, but Dominic's has those few chairs out in front that you have to carry the Wall Street Journal like a red badge of courage in order to get to sit there, I guess, or something. But there just isn't any place to, and they play frisbee all over the place too, which hits my head and everything else. So that ruins the central campus. And they're even playing frisbee in the law club court now, so you can't sit in there much anymore. And you go to the Arbor, you kick a bush, it kicks you back.
You think that the universities are dying? I mean, that's.
Oh yeah, universities are obsolete.
Oh, I know that.
But I don't see why it should ruin all the space. University, no question about it.
What's going to happen? What?
When the universities are gone?
What are we going to do?
Jesus.
As an alternative
Right.
to that.
Buy jackknives. Start whittling. Yeah. Shrade Walden, two of them are. I would like to think what Paul Goodman talked about might, but I don't know.
What's that?
Oh, he thought it'd be a good idea in Community of Scholars. He talks about it. It's one of the really, truly anarchist tracts that I know. He thought it'd be a good idea if you found like 2 or 3 people that you thought you could learn something from, and you get a dozen or 15 students, and you just go and rent a storefront or do something, and sit and have a college.
Right. That sounds interesting. I don't know what we're going to do. That's what I'm curious. That's why you're older. I try to talk Russell into joining a community, some kind of a commune where he would have control of the 45-year range. We're going to get a 70-year-old. I get to be the 30-year-old, 32-year-old. She's holding right down to the nitty. And that's what I think would be good. What else could you do? It's like a piano. You have all the different ranges. What do you think about that as far as natural living? Talk about slowing time down in processes. What better way to see the process than to see it unfolded by continual living around people of all ages?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think you've had that experience more than I have by growing up probably when
Yes,
you did.
yeah.
And I haven't. We always were.
It makes a lot of sense. I think the thing that is implicit, though, in the idea of that kind of community is that sooner or later, and probably rather sooner than later, you've got to have some core
I mean, something you
of
do
belief or principles or something, function, something,
together, right?
to which all people can give their allegiances, and willingly.
Do you think that's
And-
hard to get?
Well, I'm not sure about that until it becomes complicated with one other fact. One of my discoveries has been is I don't think there is such a thing as a second generation utopian.
Okay.
All right? And you have also to consider that people need within limits to go and come. If you're organizing, and that means budgeting, rather tightly, there are going to be times in which you need all the available hand power or manpower. The goddamn string beans take a long time to get ready to freeze, and then you got to blanch them and so on. And that's just not the day that you want somebody out communing with, to him who in the love of nature holds communion with
Right.
invisible form.
For sure.
It's just not the day for it, man. All right. And sooner or later, the worst thing about this is not authority, but the idea that I'm not sure how to have I don't have any kibbutz experience. I'm not sure how to have that kind of a community without sometimes a sacrifice of why you've organized, of what it is that you've organized the community to attain.
Now, how do you sacrifice it? What do you mean? I'm real slow there.
Well, I can't. I wish I knew more. I wish I had been in Israel. The kibbutz, a lot of them work well,
Right?
but they work well. It seems to me, and Bettelheim talked about it some too, by not pretending to equality.
Right. Oh, sure.
And that I find a problem with that, as you translate that to the United States.
Well, that's the problem in this country right now.
You see? And your alternative is to run an organization like Stephen Gaskin does down in Tennessee.
He's a dictator, essentially.
Well, that would be all right, but that's a lot. I mean, it's working, and the people, at least while they're there, seem contented enough.
No,
I don't know.
I've seen him and his henchmen personally, and it's not a viable situation. Meaning there's no possibility of moving between layers.
Well, I can tell you what the Shakers did, and they're the most successful in the Western world. They had heads of community and business heads. And they had no children. So they were constantly receiving an impulse from converts. And we all know that within limits, nothing succeeds like conversion. Graham Greene, yeah. Much of the various kinds of vitalizations that the Roman Catholic Church in its long history have gone through have come because of the impulse of converts at various times. Okay? So they depended upon converts. They required everybody to have a manual skill. Whatever else he did, he had to do some manual skills, manual work. They had the stewards, essentially, who, quotes, dwelled at the outer gate and dealt with the world's people, trustees. And then they had the religious heads of communities who were more or less like the final arbiters. But they could do that partly because there was a unanimity of opinion about what constitutes belief. Much more identicality and uniformity of religious and therefore theocratic or governing authority, because they subscribed to the same 39 articles or however many there happened to be. And that gave an essential core.
Right. Well, how would we go about getting one like that?
I don't know, Michael.
Don't you
I
think
thought
life produces it? I mean, don't you think that any sensible person finally comes to the same conclusions? I mean, I find myself becoming more and more cooperative and more willing to just to work and not even to be ambitious in the way I used to be, in the same ways at any rate. Not wanting, I don't give a damn what I do. I would like to work with other people, just where I could work very...
And continue to grow.
And continue to grow, but see some of this process that Russell's talking about as far as the slowing down of my life and appreciation of, greater cycles, slower cycles. I don't find, it seems that we all want this at moments, but that we never can get together on it. Like, for instance, Russell and I, we once talked about opening a coffee shop, a coffee house in Big Rapids. That would not have been a bad idea. That town's really becoming a little Ann Arbor in its own retarded way.
with more space.
It's got tons of space, and there's a bookstore opening now, and there's all these, and they're talking about a food co-op up there, and that kind of stuff. So that was interesting, but none of these things ever happened. Like, there must be some more useful way that would also serve as a sign to the rest, to this society as a whole. I guess, let me just say this, that what I would like to do is to work very hard and have my life also be a sign
Mm-hmm.
that would be instructive to anyone who cared to notice.
All right.
I think
I can understand that.
Right. How do you go about doing it? I mean, I'm doing as good as I can, but I'm not satisfied.
Well, and that's the same way I write. I'm not sure that that's the best either. It happens to be something that I want to do. What is it Auden says? We make our meek adjustments. I don't know, Michael, because it seems to me the very vitality, the varying personalities that one would imagine working in, with, and for are not likely to be amenable either to arbitrary rule, and I'm not sure that my experience, I do not think my experience suggests that majority rule works, because it always creates a minority. And you somehow have to drive toward the idea of tacit unanimity. That seems to be a difficult enough thing to manage for many people in the commune of marriage when there are only two people involved.
Right, but it makes no difference whether they have 2 or 100.
It ought not.
I don't think it does.
But yet we're all bred up and all raised up and all so much of the school and so much that we should, kind of do our own thing, or that phrase has gone out. I'll quit using that. That's last year's phrase, 2 years ago. The language constantly is being
You see what
corrupted.
I'm saying?
Yes,
The
I
point
do.
is that the
I don't know
hassle-
the answer.
The hassle that lies between a married couple
Yeah.
It's the same hassle that lies for a single person, and that the recognition of that struggle would be the basis for communal living.
Yes,
What
Michael,
it is.
and I know you well, but let's just
Right.
make a hypothetical situation.
Right.
What if I happen to disagree with you and believe that Margaret was right in some hassle? Let's pretend.
Well, I don't know what would happen.
That's the problem, Michael. You
Right.
see, it isn't likely to happen either.
Oh, it's not unlikely to happen, either.
But I don't know.
I feel I'm slowly coming around on that, personally. Well, there you have the chopping block. There's the cross that has to be borne. And we all can bear it. That's the one that we can bear together. Or we can take, I think my experience, limited as it is, tells me that carrying that alone is hell.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
carrying that together is, if not heaven, it is better than that hell.
I think that the only times I've seen that really well
Hello?
together is when
Yeah, I'm
they
still
have
gonna-
a common work.
I'm sorry,
You know,
we have a
because
special thing
like,
going here this
a
afternoon.
lot of spiritual communities, like for
maybe
instance,
I'll just give you a
the
call.
easiest one I can refer to is the one where there's a lot of different spiritual groups who are putting out books and doing their trip of spreading information.
Right.
Big Rapids, like?
Well,
Fine,
sure,
do that, huh?
them or
Yeah.
like the Theosophical Society, the Anthroposophical
Fine.
Society, any of those
Yeah,
places,
I'll have
you
to
know.
talk to them.
And the
I'm sorry
idea is
about
that they're
this, but
all
that's
like
it.
so much into this work that they
Yeah,
just like
fine.
sacrifice
See you then.
themselves in the work,
Right.
you know. And if you have like common aims in work, then you'll find that unity. But then again, then you have to find out what you're working for, you know. And that's another thing.
That's the point.
Right, that is the crazy thing. What do the bees do? You know, I don't know. They always work well
They
together.
got a leader.
Well, we got a leader within us too. I mean, like when Russell says that the Shakers depend on conversion, well, the life itself depends on the conversion of raw energy
Yeah.
or younger people into older people.
But you see, then too, let's just pretend Iotis gets to be 17 and says, so long.
Well, that would be her back. She'd be, it'd have to be the kind of thing where people will live together that would be like a family, but it wouldn't necessarily be a family related by physical blood.
Right, and the reason to do it is to think the work's important. I would agree. And that very shortly in most of us translates itself into subjective immortality, I'm afraid. And that becomes the crux. If you can accept it, you asked me what I'm going to do next winter at the Vegas notion. And I'm saying that, to some extent, I like the certain things that certain Indians have said is one day at a time, please. But that's also a very difficult basis for putting together a community on. Because sooner or later, you got to pay the light bill. So you can't go one day at a time exactly. But as soon as you don't go one day at a time, implicitly or explicitly, you're beginning to be bound up with the whole notions of continuity and carrying on. And
Or
Aye.
doesn't necessarily, if you have control over that, then that isn't necessarily a negative thing. That thing can become a very positive thing if you have control. If it's something that you don't have control over, and it's like the light bill comes due every week, well, you don't have any control over that. But if it's something you do have control over, then it can become, a source of energy for the community.
well, what about those that decide that, well, let's not pay the light bill, and so we sit around for 2 weeks with candles and I go blind?
You couldn't.
I'm
you'd have to be
saying-
reasonable.
Yeah, but the reasonableness is also a source of the anxiety, because I think it's intimately connected
Well, then put this
with
authority.
ultimates. Where is it not only, and I think that anyone would be further ahead, translating only in terms of life, if that, as such, now, today, this hour, tomorrow, but no more than tomorrow. Like, I have to get up and go to work tomorrow. I'm not even looking forward to it, but I'll do it. That sort of thing. There are days in which I just love to stay in bed.
Right.
And my Protestant ethic, I suppose it is. I keep telling myself it is.
Well, if you-
Gets me up. But on the other hand, after I get there, that I don't mind. So, I'm under no illusions that the work I do is going to save the world. It isn't.
Is that what you're calling subjective immortality?
The subjective immortality is the desire that you've already made up your mind how it is to yourself, that you're going to persist beyond your own existence, physically.
I see. Well, the work is definitely key, I think. Even if you are rich enough to be able to just stay in bed in the morning, then I would present to you that you should stay in bed. And eventually you're going to get tired of being in bed, and you'll have to go up and do some work. There's this thing of work. It's a work ethic, but it goes beyond just there's a thing of work somehow, that you have to do some kind of job, on the planet. Whether you think being a bum, if you can just be a good bum, then you're doing your job, That's what I mean, right? I mean,
Well, maybe, but I wonder about that even, because
Well, tell me.
Michael was asking me before he came about what I was going to do, and I said, well, I can always go at least 39 weeks of unemployment, and I'll tell you this much, if I went back to Ionia and filled out a form and put down a job as a bibliographer, there isn't a snowball's chance in hell that they can spell the word maybe, let alone find me a job doing it. And you don't have to take the jobs they find for you. But I'll be honest, there's a kind of terror of imagining 39 weeks of not doing anything.
Right.
So I'm not... at another level, I'd like it. And in a way, it might even be a kind of testing circumstance. I don't know. But it's probably the reason I postponed and delayed certain kinds of decisions. I'm not willing to give that much importance to the work one does as such. I don't think I can.
I don't know if I'm meaning given importance like I think you sound, but I'm not sure. I can't take your word, you have to do a job. I mean, you have to do something. Like you have to you'll stagnate. So you have to have some kind of flow. Just like that water stagnates when it stops flowing.
Mm-hmm.
If you just stay in bed.
And the most wonderful creatures grow in stagnant water. It has its function too. So
sure, it has. I can see that. It has its function for the people. Right. Okay.
So
But what he's saying is that he doesn't feel like he's a stagnant animal.
No.
He feels that he has.
But there's a process that's not stagnant happens to those animals within the stagnant water. That's something else too.
I think what I object to getting them going to work is that I don't know that I'm doing it because of the reasons that I should. In other words, that I don't really go necessarily because I want to, but rather because somehow it's expected of me.
Well, I think the motive.
I think we do.
Too.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's the motive then, rather than the. In other words, you can form communities all day long, but why?
Right.
And the idea of any kind of perfect sharing is, it seems in anything, you see, once you create the community, you've got an objective kind of entity. And it doesn't seem to me that it's likely that if you plan night and day and were as close as you could possibly be to whatever was done in its planning and articulation and everything else, that you would necessarily be certain that anybody else understood it as you did, or shared, as it were, the vision. They might just be going along for doing the right thing for all the wrong reasons.
Well,
Like they might go because they like you.
To do the right thing for the wrong reasons is slightest treason.
Pardon?
To do the right thing for the wrong reasons is slightest treason. I think that.
Come here.
Well-
The energy, see, like a lot of those people too would do it. They might be just doing it just because of the energy contact. Like there might be one person in the community that's open.
Sure, no question about that. And I'm certain Nietzsche, as a matter of fact, gave a line on that I very much like. He said, and he's talking about himself when he was teaching before he finally went mad. He says, with the young, there's only two things one can do, he thought. One is resent them, and the other is to love them. But under either circumstances, he also thought they were vultures. They eat you up.
Who's this?
Nietzsche.
The young people?
Mm-hmm.
It's just as true of the old people.
Oh, it may be. But he was talking about, and all I'm saying is that then the problem you've posed is that whoever is the energy source in this particular circumstance is under a frightful strain.
Right.
Never to be out of character and never off stage, never out of performance almost.
But this is the point. The energy source. This is the wonderful thing about what Christianity works with, is that the energy source never is personal other than it shares in every person, in the sense that there's a recognition that there is an energy exchange constantly going on between older and younger people, and that's that exchange that becomes the common denominator. The fact that this is more greater than any one person, regardless of his young or old.
Yes, but that's a species of immortality.
That it is.
Yes.
But what is
There's nothing wrong with it. It's that it is, after all, it predicates that there is, essentially in the long run, it predicates that there is a better life someplace than this one which we are participating in.
No, it doesn't. It predicates the fact that it doesn't suggest that there's a better life. It suggests that the life is here. That any life, whether it's better, whether that only could be solved by bettering your life here, by trying to, to realize the truth within yourself. I mean, we live in a society that is decaying in many respects, or at least getting ready to go through a great revolution or transformation of some kind. And,
All right.
And I think that we're going to come into a communal kind of life where the principle that I'm explaining right this second is going to be that's going to be the money. That is going to be the ultimate. This is where Christianity is going to get its due finally. That is the ultimate arbitrator for most of us, in the sense that the older people are in touch with the information or the experience, and the younger people are in touch with the energy. And there's no, the older person that's successful is one who can manipulate that energy for a useful purpose. And the younger person who's successful is the one who can learn from the older person successfully and is willing to give that energy out. Isn't that true?
I think what you say is true, Michael. I think the only problem I have is as soon as you have that kind of situation, you've got an implicit orthodoxy, and then you have to decide who's orthodox and who isn't. And
What do you mean orthodoxy?
well, that's Christianity's essential problem. Who is and isn't Christian? That's been the biggest problem that Christians.
No, Christianity appeals just as much to pagans. Christianity depends with, it's like an energy. It's like an engine, a fuel. There's as far as someone who is not Orthodox Christianity, their energy is saying they're just not aware of the principles, so they cannot use them. They're not let in on the secret. They cannot manipulate except in a certain area. And those people who do learn the laws and the principles, and you know this by virtue of your age, can manipulate in much broader areas. And that's the basis of the exchange. And that finally, the vision that's put forth in the Revelations is that finally there could be a life that is lived. And we've talked about this before, without there being an unnecessary pain. That there could be like the strength, the pressure of existence to reproduce itself that could be experienced in a much more dignified, beautiful, whatever you have, significant is my favorite word, to live it, for everything to have some kind of meaning, more meaningful existence. And that seems to me to be the easiest way to live with a group of people, is to try, and for us at this time in history, that may be extremely difficult, but that's going to be where we're all going to be making some kind of headway. If we don't move in that direction, there is no other direction.
It comes to a point where you have to create these stresses or tensions, because these tensions produce an emergency. Then you'll emerge constantly. It's emerging from the emergency, and a release of tension is release of power. And it's the power.
Well, let me ask a question. I've heard the word decadence used a couple of different times here. It bothers me a little bit. Not that there's.
Decadent, 40.
You're right, because I think you have to work pretty hard to get there. But
Be decadent or in the twilight?
yeah, more Gotterdammerung, Twilight of the Idols. But let me pursue it a little bit. Let me pursue it a little bit. I just want to know what you understand by it. I'd like to
Hold on, Bob.
I'd like to I'd like to find out. I'm not so sure about, from such as we can know about the past, I'm not so sure that maybe quite a bit of the things we, ideas, books, pictures, whatever, that we admire most weren't in fact the products, or at least happened during, decadent ages.
Well, how do you define decadence?
French Revolution, because it didn't work.
I'm
That was a
saying
political decay of the First Order. A lot of first-rate literature came out of the fall of Rome. And indeed, the Roman Catholic Church owes an enormous debt to the fall of Rome.
the same thing. You were just pointing out earlier in the conversation that a return to vast and larger cyclic processes was desirable.
That's right.
As far as I'm concerned, a lot of those processes don't necessarily include 99% of what's ever been written as even being needed or very, very valuable to read. I'm not saying that you can understand me, you can choose not to understand me. I'm saying that if we're going to, a society that we could imagine possible, if we, utopian if you want, could be one where there was much more just a plain, everything, in the best times you don't need books. Just like people ask me as an astrologer, what do I do? Well, when I'm feeling good, I don't even look at the damn thing. I don't look at my calendar, I don't look at the planets. It's only when I begin to fall in trouble, that's what marks me as not a true astrologer. Is that I begin to gauge myself, so that I could see a time where you just had the revelation of. I think that every human being has to decide for themselves whether they would accept joy and continual revelation, or whether they are afraid that that's boring, or something, that they want to have the continual fall. I'm not addressing you personally. I'm just saying this is something I've faced in my life. And I, for one, choose the continual revelation and the continual glorying, if I could help it that to be. And that's not looking for pie in the sky. As you remember, Andrew said, he used to say to me over and over again, Michael, this is hell. And you can make heaven in some corner of it, if you're fortunate. I think that we're all, I can speak for myself anyway, that there is no heaven other than what we can create or be part of or realize right here. And that's a full-time job to me, meaning that I really would like to see this country, in my own country, survive and really fulfill itself. And I really believe it's possible. And a lot of people don't, I guess.
Well, I think that's true.
And I think
that's true.
that the only possibility way that could do is if some people actually work towards those ends and gave themselves to those ends. I'm not saying I can all the time either. I'm saying that those are the things that in the times, like once you said to me, on my best days, I'm Shakespeare. That was a thing you said to me, and that impressed me. Well, on my best days, I'm able to really contribute to the eternity of my own self, my own mankind. And I can see myself, I can love everyone else, and especially younger people, and I don't care if I were to die that day. That they're living, and that is me. And I'm really shedding that person, in the sense that I don't care about personal, selfish immortality. Whether I have write a book or do that. I mean, I admit I'm a battlefield. That there's a struggle. There's been a struggle going on there, and a warfare. But you know the same struggle.
Yeah.
What about it? I mean, what about the truth behind any personal, selfish desires? That would be a communal thing. Is that really boring, or what do you think? I mean, or is it? I'd hate to think that I'm the only person that has these thoughts, because I just don't believe it.
I don't think you. I don't think you are.
Or that these should be relegated to some small corner as being just a pretty far out way of thinking. It just seems to me to be logical.
I think one of the things that I've done is attempt to objectify them, and let some of these, as it were, disturbances, or whatever you want to say, become, as it were, the reason I've written certain pieces. And I can't fault what you say. But it isn't a matter exactly of assent or dissent. Therefore, it's a matter of collaboration or non-collaboration.
Where do you? I'm trying to understand where you are at.
I would probably be inclined to say this. I'm a little, to my own way of thinking, I'm a little too rigid, a little too inflexible for a group, for a communal situation.
That's too bad.
I think.
But I mean, I probably am too.
For
I think if you have to
example,
die, you'd suffer in a group situation
That's right.
tremendously. But it would be good. That
You know, there's a very real agony with me that I notice several times a day in the store or in the warehouse. For some reason or other, somebody's looking for something, okay? They're perfectly competent, and sooner or later they'll find it. The only agony I have is, since I know what it is I'm looking for and know what it is they're looking for, is keeping myself from finding it for them.
Well, I think we're same
All
here.
right, all right. Man, that kind of impatience is just unmitigated hell to live with. Particularly, like, the phone call comes down from upstairs. You know, we got another copy of the Viking Dante. Somebody takes the phone call, and they turn and say, I gotta have a Viking Dante. It's easier, I think, and it probably isn't. I delude myself into thinking it's easier to go over and pick it off the shelf and hand it to them than it is to let them find the Viking Dante themselves.
But you know they have to go through the same thing.
Right.
I guess
Boy, there are kinds of impatience. As a matter of fact, they don't come out much with children, because I don't know why. I guess because I spent so many years of my life